This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers. Welcome back. This is Keenan Cage of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome back to Time to Ball. Well, I know it's been a while, man. It's been a real long minute. Initially, when I finished, I was going to step away for a little time, a few weeks, because I'm running the business, and then get back into it. But it's like, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months. So, I'm back now. Now, before I get into time off and why I came back, let me just delve a little bit into why I started the podcast in the first place. My business is training, basketball training, as they say. So I'm always asked about different topics, different things, different ways to do stuff, and I try to articulate that and show the kids that when we're doing training. Parents ask questions a lot. Get a lot of people that ask for my opinion on different things. Even my wife, sometimes she asks me for opinions on stuff. But, over time, it just kind of developed into these were things that are on my mind. And then I would watch, shows, you have people talking and their talking points. And when they're talking, they don't always hit the points or talk about things that I like. So then I just said to myself, man, why don't you start your own damn podcast so you can talk about what the hell you want to talk about? You don't have to worry about, hearing it or seeing it because you're the one that's giving the content. So I started the podcast, and I started it around the end of the around the end of the pandemic, and it went pretty well. I had quite a few episodes. I had a few guests on. I had a nice little following. I had people saying, "Hey, yo, man, when the next podcast? When you gonna be doing it again?" So I kept it going, but it wasn't exactly how I needed it to be. I was using my phone. So, if I had a guest or if I had to talk, it didn't quite sound right. Now the words were spoken, topics were covered. People liked what was going on in that podcast, but I wanted to do it in a better way. So when I took a step back, the initial step back was just to, take a break, because if you're watching seasons of stuff, there's always a season. And then at the end of the season, whether it's a cliffhanger or not, you usually got to wait for a damn, 4 or 5 months before the show comes back on. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Plus, at the time when I stopped, it was getting into the fall. Business was going. Running a business, for those of you who have your own business, it's a full-time thing. You got to manage schedules. You got to manage your clients. You got to manage your employees. Make sure they're taken care of. Got to take care of the business in itself, and then you're looking to grow as a whole. So there's a lot that goes into it. So when I took it off, I was thinking, I'll take a couple of weeks off. But then I got busy, and then a couple of weeks was like, I'll start it next month. So I kept getting busy. It is. I'll start at the beginning of the year. Yeah, the beginning of the year is a good time to start because it's fresh, just like New Year. Yeah, that shit didn't last long. So then I started researching on, I wanted to make sure that I was doing, giving, the audience a really good, sample, I guess. Not sample. I ain't gonna say sample. I'm sounding like a music guy. I wanted to make sure the audience could hear in the product, I guess I should say the product was more, to everyone's liking, because I listened to one of my podcasts, and I had one of my college coaches on, And then, when you're sitting up there talking, you're saying, man, this shit is nice. We just flowing. We had one where it was 4 damn episodes, and we probably could have did 10 episodes of 1 or 2 hours long because it was flowing. And we was like, yo, this shit is all right. So then once I finished it and everything was everything, and I'm getting ready to upload it, and then I listened to it, and I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this? I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, oh my God. So that's when I started to understand, like, okay, I need to make sure that there are steps taken to ensure that, the quality of the product is right. Because when training, I'm always about the quality of my product. When I'm training as a basketball trainer, I'm always about that. I make sure that everything is detailed. Kids are going to learn, and they're going to always get better after they finish. So when they leave a training, a parent and a kid can be like, okay, yeah, we learned something today. And there's no amount of money you can't really put a price on that, because once you learn something, nobody can take it away unless, the people from MIB, Men in Black, show up, with those sunglasses and that little metal looking like a metal pen. If they show up, then yeah, you can lose it because they're gonna wipe your memory away. But I started thinking, like, I need my product. All my products need to be authentic. It needs to show that I care about it. So I had to kind of say, okay, I'm not gonna use the source that I was using. It's great. It's a great source. I'll speak on it. I don't even know if I can, but that's just the way I am. It was Anchor is what I was using, and it was great, for what I needed to actually get it started. So I'm forever going to be grateful to Anchor for providing that platform and allowing me to, continue to grow, put it out there, see if it was something that I could do, and continue to go on. So what happened is, after I, was doing Anchor, and then I was like, well, you know what? I want to look into this. I want to look at moving on and creating more content. And I was going to try to move my Anchor content. It was hard. So then I was like, you know what? Let me try to find a different computer, because when I did research and then I called professionals, they were telling me, that computer you got, it's not going to work for what you need. So I was like, okay, so I need to get a computer. And, things happen business wise, and it's like, okay, I'm not able to get a computer. So then things started to change to where it's like, I'm just going to chill on the podcast. I'm not going to, do anymore. It ran its course. I was happy with it, because one thing in life, I want everybody to really, really understand this. One thing in life, never have a regret. And here's what I mean. If there's something that you want to do in life, whatever it is, whether you're going to succeed or fail, you need to have that answer. So don't say, nah, I'm not going to do it, because you're going to always regret it. Years pass by and you're like, damn, man, I should have did that. It'll eat at you. So if you try to do it and it fails, at least you can look at it and say, hey, you know what? I did it. It didn't work out right. It's not something for me, or whatever the reason may be. But at least you can look back and not have that void in your soul about not doing stuff. So, I was completely content with not doing anymore, because I did it. I could check it off my little checklist. Now, podcast was not on a checklist that I had. It's not. But, as I kept thinking about it and kept doing it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. And, I started because I was doing a show with a friend of mine right before the pandemic started. And, we were doing something on Facebook, and we were going live, and it was, sports, and, it was working. It was cool. I was liking it and stuff like that. And then, pandemic really hit, and, we had to separate. And then as we were going through it, it was kind of hard to really get back into doing the podcast. it wasn't a podcast. It was a live stream through Facebook. So it's kind of hard to do it. And then that morphed into me saying, you know what, I think I should go ahead and continue to do it myself. So in a long story wise, that's kind of what happened and how I started and how I wanted to do it. So when I stepped away, I was content with it. Well, then, you start to find out from people that you didn't really know or some that you knew, hey, you know what? When are you going to do a podcast? Man, I enjoyed your podcast. And I'm like, really? And I was like, okay. Then you hear a couple of people, hey, when you going to do any more podcasts? You got any more podcasts coming? I was like, well, I'm thinking about it. You're always like, oh yeah, man, I got it in the burner. I'm about to get in the lab and start spitting out some bars like I'm like I got a record deal or something. But that's not really how it was. I kind of thought about it even prior to, but it was like, you know what? I'm really busy with some things that I'm trying to do. But then, I enjoy doing it. So, okay. After the third person happened to mention it, it was like, okay, all right. So now I really need to figure out how to do it and do it the way I need to, because it needs to be authentic, just like my training. So circumstances come and I'm back. And I think this will be how I envisioned it from the start. Doing it the way I am. This is official, man. I feel like I'm in a studio, with all kinds of stuff. I got, equipment here, computer screens, a big mic in my face. I feel like the first time on Hustle and Flow, in the house. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, but it's Hustle and Flow. And I'm trying to think of the actor's name. It'll come to me. And if you've listened to my podcast, before, sometimes I'll forget and then it'll come back. But in any case, he was like, I'm trying to get this. I got this beat in my head. I need to get out, man. Terrence Howard. There you go. Terrence Howard. He was the star of Hustle and Flow. And if you've never seen it, it's a pretty good movie because he was, an aspiring rapper and he just started from nowhere. But yeah, I feel kind of like him when he was in the booth, but don't worry. I'm not going to start, singing is hard out here for a pimp because I'm not pimping or anything like that. So, it's just that visualization of him being in the booth is what kind of made me, say, hey, maybe I should, do it and do it correctly. So this is how it looks and this is how it feels. And maybe at some point, I'll do a live where you can see, what's going on. And you can appreciate, where I'm at right now. So it's been great getting back. I actually have a little bit different formula to how I used to do it. And I'm hoping that, you as an audience appreciate it. Now, Time to Ball is really about basketball, but I'll cover other topics. I'll talk about different things, here and there, whatever's going on. But it's mainly for me to discuss different stuff when it comes to my business. I'm not a world renowned basketball trainer. That's now it's not because I'm not good enough. It's really because I have no desire to get out and go over all across the country and train people and be professional. But I will tell you, I know my shit. I've been doing this 20, about 2008, carry you on, as Fred Sanford used to say. So about 14 years that I've done it in a business sense to actually do basketball training. But from years before that, I had people asking me to train their kids. Like, we love the way you handle the ball. Can you work with my kids and stuff? And I'd be like, what the hell does that mean? Get your ass in the gym and work. That's how I did it. But as I started understanding what it was, that's kind of how the seeds were planted. But look, I've been asked to go overseas and train people. There are people that I could train, throughout the country. I've had my kids that I've trained to go play in different, not play, go to attend different like NBA style camps with some of the big names, and they would come back and say, these guys are good, but the way you explain stuff in detail, the way you break it down, they was like, man, they're not fucking with what you do. So, that was big for me. And then having kids to come, people, traveling, they just happen to be in town and they're like, hey, we look you up. We like to get a training session. I do a training session, and dad's like, for the hour, and the dad's like, I got to tell you, when I tell him how much it costs, and he was like, what? That's all? He's like, we're from, Seattle or over on the West Coast. He's like, man, I've taken my son to some of the biggest trainers in the country, top names, and we paid $150 up to $300 an hour. And they say, and he said he learned more in this 1 hour with you, technical, how to do stuff, how to be, see the second move and things like that. And he said he's learned so much in this hour. He's like, man, you're way undercharging, and you should really look to get your name out there. But that's not really how I roll. That's not really what I'm about. I'm building something here, and it's been working. So I'm happy. Now, full disclosure, it might be time for me to start venturing out and, and working out, because I've had kids that were here and I've trained them, and, it's in El Paso, it's military, right? So sometimes you get some kids in the military and then they move to other parts of the country, and they still stay in touch and they still want to link up with me to do training. So it's one of those things where I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should start moving around a little bit more based on need. So putting all of that stuff together, putting this podcast together, I like it. I enjoy it. Not that I like hearing myself talk. I really hate it. So like other podcasts that I've done in the past, I don't sit around listening to them in the car, when I'm driving, like, yo, this my shit, I'm gonna listen to it. Nah, I don't do that, because, I sound kind of weird whenever you listen to yourself. Your voice never sounds like what is coming out of your mouth. Like, you come out of your mouth and you sound like some, smooth operator. But when you listen to it, you sound like squeaky or something. So, it's not something I love to do as far as listening. But, I seem to anticipate that people like the content that I'm putting out. So I'm going to get back into it, and it's going to be more standard, meaning, I'm not going to put one out, once every 6 months or anything like that. I'm going to try to be consistent with what I do, and make sure that I cover topics. So, there are going to be some changes with how I do this podcast that I think you as an audience will really, enjoy, because I'm going to be engaging y'all. Y'all just can't sit back and listen and, be smoking a joint or drinking or listening on your way to work and just be talking shit about me. You're going to have to reach out and let me know what you're feeling on whatever subject it is. Now, there's some subjects I don't care to discuss as far as what y'all think, but for the most part, I want to make sure that you guys are engaged and stuff. So I'm really, really thankful to be back. I'm really thankful for the opportunity with how I'm getting back. And I'll say I'm really thankful for the little nudges that I got from people who were like, hey, man, you need to get your ass, I enjoyed your podcast. You need to get back. So I appreciate that. That's real. I really appreciate all the stuff. So again, welcome back to Time to Ball. And I thank y'all for this opportunity. Okay. All right. So today is Tuesday, October 19th or 18th. I don't know what day it is. I think it's the 18th. But I do know that today is the first day of the NBA season. I do know that. And it's my favorite time of the year. Now, I'm loving the fact that the NBA season starts today. But here's why this is my favorite time of the season. I can't explain why, but having football, NFL, and college, having Major League Baseball in the playoffs, even though I don't really watch baseball, I watch baseball around this time, and I won't watch a whole game. Usually around the 6, 7, or 8 inning of a baseball game, I might turn it on and watch for, 10, 15 minutes. And then basketball and also hockey. Now, I'm not a big hockey fan, but to have all of the 4 major sports going on at the same time, it's the only time in the year that you have all 4 going on, because baseball is going to be ending soon. They're in the playoffs. So this is my favorite part of the year. I can't explain why. It's just my favorite time of the year. I love it. Now, having said that, this is the NBA season starts, and I don't know if I mentioned it on my last podcast. I don't think I did, because it's been such a long time, but I'm 3 for 3 on picking Super Bowl or NBA champions. I picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win, much to my wife's displeasure, because she's a Saints fan. So I picked Tampa Bay to win the Super Bowl the year that they won. The following year, I was rolling with the Rams. I figured the Rams was going to win the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. Then in the NBA, I picked the Golden State Warriors to win the NBA finals at the beginning of the season. Now, I picked this shit at the beginning of the season. I didn't come in the playoffs and say, oh, this team's going to win. Nah, I said it at the jump, right? And it was just the feel and how I felt things fell together. Now, with Golden State, the thought was Clay's coming back and Wiseman's going to come back. James Wiseman, he's the center. Well, he didn't come back, and Clay came back towards the end, but they were clicking. And I saw it ever since the previous year, how they had these young players coming in, and it looked like they were trying to teach them that strength in numbers scenario that they had when they won the finals before they had Kevin Durant. So there were some things in play where I was like, hey, man, if they stay healthy, they're going to be there at the end of the year. And sure enough, they got healthy, and you saw, how they accomplished things. Now, the one biggest difference in how they won this year, beating Boston, was Steph. Steph, what I call, in the hooping community, we say he cracked the code. And what does crack the code mean? To me, crack the code means that he figured it out, how to just give me the ball. I'm gonna get this shit done. And that's pretty much how he started to play coming off screens. And he wasn't shy. He was more aggressive, and it allowed things to open up for other people as well, because, okay, here's something I'm going to mention. When it comes to the NBA, there's always this talk of, oh man, this guy is great. This guy can play, man. This guy can play. To me, when I say a guy can play, I'm saying I'm scared of him in a sense of how many points he can give you. So guys like Steph, guys like, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Giannis right now, LeBron, there are numerous guys. So if I don't mention them, it doesn't mean that I don't like that person. It's just I'm flowing off the top of my head. There are guys in the NBA that can always give you 30, but you worried that this guy is going to give you 50, 60, or 70 points, right? There are guys like that. Allen Iverson, you were worried that he was going to give you, 50, 60 points. Jordan once said in a playoff game, he said, yo, if I got to score 55 points to win the game, I'll score 55 points to win the game. He goes out, it was against the Knicks. I don't remember what year, but it was around between the 93, 94, or 92, 95, somewhere in the 90s. Actually, that's when they were really doing their thing. And the Knicks were one of their nemesis. He went out and scored 55 points. So there are guys that you say, he get his 20, he's going to get maybe his 30, but you don't worry about him scoring 40 or 50 points. And Steph has that ability to where when he starts hitting a few, you're like, oh, now think about it. If you watch the NBA, what was it? Not the NBA. It's not the finals. Damn. Again, my mind is bad. I might be talking and I don't even know what I'm talking about. But no, it was the NBA All-Star game. When you watch the NBA All-Star game, it's players at their best. And you had LeBron, you had Ja, you had all these guys, they doing their thing, they're dunking. Steph hit a 3. Commentators say, well, he hit a 3. He comes back down, he hits another 3. Now, after he hits his second 3, you can tell the crowd kind of like, uh-oh, here we go. People were starting to sit a little bit more on the edge of the seats. The announcers mentioned that's Steph's second 3. When he hit that third 3, that's when everybody's like, uh-oh, he might be feeling it today. And Steph put on a show. He put on an absolute show, right? To where you had other all-stars looking at him like, man, this motherfucker, look at this shit, and they were appreciating it. So he cracked the code in the sense that he became a force and he entered that upper echelon type, a player that can just score and you have to worry about him. And that's what happens when he's on the court. You have to worry about him. There are actual diagrams, not diagrams, but screenshots of games where he has 3 and 4 players on him. 3 and 4 players. Now, if you don't know about basketball, you can only have 5 players on the court at one time, right? So offense has 5, defense has 5. So if he has 3 to 4 players on him, that means that it's one player trying to play the other 4. And there's screenshots of it. So guys were getting open shots that all they had to do is catch and shoot because of you were so worried about letting him get going. And then you would hear other coaches say, hey, well, Steph is going to get his. We just got to try to contain other people. Yeah, okay. But you let Steph get his, and now you're looking at 50. I mean, he hit, I think it was 43 in game 4 in Boston. Right? So, yeah, you can let him get his, but you're trying to keep those type of players at around 30 to 35 points. Once a person goes over that 40-point range, you're like, damn. Giannis had 50 points in the finals the year that they beat Phoenix. 50 points. Right? So, that there are certain guys that you can't let get going. But in any way, I went off on a Warriors tangent. You make it sound like I'm a damn Warriors fan. I appreciate the way they play. I will tell you that. I do appreciate the way they play. But I'm not really a fan of any team. I just like matchups, right? I just like to see when this team plays this team. Like, for instance, the best game tonight I believe it's the Celtics and the Celtics and the Sixers play. And then the Lakers play Golden State. Now, I'm actually more excited for TNT this evening because I can't wait to see them dudes back on. My wife knows on Thursday nights when I get home to watch basketball, I might not watch the game, but, don't bother me when I'm watching TNT inside the NBA. I like to give a shout out to my sponsors, Next Style Designs. Next Style Designs makes quality shirts or custom apparel for all occasions. Next Style Designs. Mind Inc. Mind Inc. offers a wide array of digital media. Mind Inc. asks, are you using your mind? Southwest Basketball Showcase Recruiting Service. The link between your coach and your dreams. Maracay Zero Down Solar. Call Greg Suber for your solar needs. PCS Plus is the carpet service for all your cleaning needs. So, but back to what I was saying. Those games are going to be good. The game I want to watch is Wednesday, the Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns. Now, why am I interested in that? Why is anybody else interested in that? Well, last year there was some strong dislike. I don't like to use the word hatred because I'm not in the locker room. I don't hear them guys saying, "Man, I can't stand him. I hate that. I hate him." But there was a lot of shit talking, real shit talking, not just shit talking. There was a lot of real shit talking during that series. There were a lot of hurt feelings and a lot of chippiness in that series with the Mavericks and Phoenix. Luka took exception to some things that Devin Brooks, no, not Devin Brooks. It's Devin Booker. Damn. Luka took some exception to some stuff that Devin had said and did. And they were going back and forward the whole series. Now, Game 7, the Mavericks blow Phoenix the fuck out the water, out the gym, first half. That game is over. I believe there was a sense that game was over after the first quarter. They were getting dominated, right? They were losing by like 30-something points, I think, somewhere within the first quarter to the first half. Luka enjoyed letting them have it. He enjoyed talking to him, right? That shit don't go away. You put that in the back of your head, like, okay, yeah. Who we got on the season? Oh yeah. Phoenix has to redeem themselves. Now, one regular season game does not erase what they went through in the playoffs, but it's a start. You letting them know, hey, that shit was an anomaly, and I think it was. Nobody would have thought that the Mavericks would have beat them the way they did. Nobody would have thought Phoenix would have played the way they did. If they'd have played again, it would have been, a different story. Not saying Phoenix would have won, but it would have been more competitive because that series was kind of back and forth. It was pretty competitive, and something happens here and there and it changes the game. And then when this team wins 10, 15, points, that's kind of the norm in the NBA. But the way the Game 7 went, that shit wasn't the norm. So it's been a lot of stewing over the summer. So I look for that game to be like a mid-season forum where it's excessive shit talking. You might even get some dudes, trying to fight, pushing and shoving and stuff. You might get some hard fouls, all of that. So that's the game that I can't wait to see. All right. But yeah, the NBA season starts. Maybe at some point I'll make my predictions. I just know this much. Golden State won last season without a big. Now they got a big. So they got their big back. So it's going to be hard. But I mean, a lot of teams made a lot of, changes to their rosters. Some teams upgraded. The Nets, I think, are going to be a problem because they have, with Ben Simmons, they got somebody who loves to pass. Whenever you put a guy who loves to pass with guys who love to shoot, it's like a match made in heaven, because the guy that just wants to pass just wants to pass. The guy that wants to shoot, he don't want to pass. He just want to shoot. So it works out good. So, and then Ben Simmons is tall. He's athletic. He loves to defend. That's going to be a problem when they play against other teams, because you can put him on team's best player. So I think that's really going to be. So look, as I go, every week, I'm going to try to highlight some stuff, talk about some different things. Hell, I might even start, doing what the analysts do. Well, I'm going to put this conference up and we're going to go down the list as to why this conference is going to be the stronger conferences, or why this team is going to be terrible. I'm not going to do all of that, but from time to time, I'll bring some of that stuff up. But yeah, I'm really happy that, the NBA is back. I mean, I've been watching a lot of basketball, throughout the summer, different types of basketball, but it's nothing like watching the NBA, watching the greatest, in the world play and do what they do. Okay. All right. So my topic that I'm going to talk about on Time to Ball, I'm going to talk about the spin move. Now, the reason I'm going to talk about the spin move is because it is the hardest move to teach a beginner. Hell, it's kind of challenging sometimes to teach kids who are more intermediate and advanced because of the way the spin move is. So I've broken it down kind of, with how I teach the spin move because it is difficult. Okay, so my process is simple. First thing I have to do is make sure that the kid knows which way to turn. Because sometimes when you ask the kid, when I assess them, okay, let me rewind just for a second. When I assess a kid, and what I mean by assess them is the first time they come into my training facility and I train the kid, I always do the first workouts and assessment. All of them are 60-minute workouts. But within that first 60-minute workout, I'm going to spend 5 to 10 minutes putting them through different drills just to see where they're at. Now, why do I do that? I just kind of stumbled upon it. And part of the reason was sometimes I would get people to bring their kids and they say, oh, yeah, well, he or she is advanced. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, advanced, then I need to do advanced stuff. So if I start out with advanced drills, I expect that they're going to be able to do them. But time and time again, kids would come in and it's like advanced. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, this kid can't dribble with their left. So they're not advanced. Right. So I developed it. Every kid who comes into our organization is assessed, no matter if they're advanced or not, because advanced to you is different than advanced to me. So I have to see what it is. So within that first, 5-10 minutes, I put them through different dribbling drills and stuff. This way I can see how they act. So whenever I have a kid to do the spin move, it's interesting to see how beginners do it. Kids who are just learning how to dribble, they all tend to not understand which way they're turning when they're spinning around with the ball in their hand. It's very fascinating. It's as if I could take clips of all the hundreds or thousands of kids that we've trained. It's in the thousands. I know that much. I just don't know how many. I've never tracked it. But for all the kids that we've trained, the beginners, they all do the same thing. So when trying to combat that, I say the first thing I have to do when I'm teaching a kid to spin move is make sure they know which way to turn when they have the ball in their right hand or when they have the ball in their left hand. So that starts the process. Once I can get the kid to learning which way to turn it, and I do it with different ways. There are some kids when I tell them, how to turn, if you're dribbling in your right hand, you take a step with your left foot and you bounce it and then you spin. You turn around, right? Some kids can comprehend that. Other kids will turn the other way. So I have a system where I just say, okay, if you're dribbling it with your right hand, then with your left hand, you're going to throw a fake punch, like a hook, like you're hooking as if you're boxing. Now, I'm letting y'all know, just like I let the kids know, don't go punching somebody in the game. All right. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to get the kids to do is to understand a simple concept. When you throw a punch, if you throw a hook punch with your right hand or your left hand in this case, your body starts to turn in the direction of the punch, right? Let's say you throw a punch and you miss. You're going to turn your body. So the concept is as you're dribbling with your right and you throw a hook punch with your left, you start to turn that way. And that's the direction at which you're supposed to turn. And then once you turn that direction, now you're going to switch hands at some point, and now you're dribbling with your left. So now when you're going to spin the opposite direction, you now throw a punch with your right hand, and it's going to make you turn that way. And then you turn and you ultimately switch hands back to the right hand, to the right hand. Okay. So visually you have to see it because I actually explain it. I actually have a video of me kind of explaining it, to be able to see, and understand how to develop in the spin move. So that's the first process, because you can't teach anything else unless they know how to turn. Because if they don't know how to turn, they're going to turn right into you and they're going to put the ball right in front of you for the defender to take. Okay. So that's the first thing. I'm always trying to make sure that they know which way to turn. Okay. Now, after I get them to understand which way they're supposed to turn, then I have to show them which hand they have to use when they're turned, which is the proper hand. Now, if the defender's in front of you and you're dribbling with your right hand and you turn around and now your back is to the defender and you're turning and the defender's kind of on your back onto your left side, if you switch hands right then, you bounce the ball and then you take it with your left hand, you're now leaving the ball exposed for the defender to just reach in, take the ball, and keep going. It's a great defensive technique that a lot of good defenders use. That was something I used to use all the time, studying how people spin move, and people who spin move like that, where they bounce it with their right and then they immediately turn and grab it with their left. Those were the easiest to steal the ball from. Okay. So having them to turn proper way, obviously, having them now to turn properly with the ball keeps them from getting the ball stolen. So if you're dribbling with the right hand and you spin, you keep the ball in your right hand until after you spin. Then you're going to switch to your left hand. Okay. So if you're visualizing it, you're dribbling right, and then you go to spin. So you'll bounce it as you spin. You take maybe one other half bounce. And then as you turn completely, you're usually by this time past that defender. And that's when you switch hands to the left. Plus, the ball is away from you, so that defender can't reach in the way he or she wants to. Okay. That's the second part of trying to teach the spin move, using the proper hand. Now, the third part is the elbow. Now, this is really something that whenever I've seen video or I've seen people teaching, because I'm constantly consuming content. That's just what I do. I'm always evolving. So if I'm bombarded with videos and, different people showing it, if I'm watching somebody in a camp or something, whatever it is, when I see people trying to teach the spin move, a lot of times when they teach it, they don't have that arm to kind of be proper as far as people who don't understand it. Now, somebody who does, they're able to grasp the concept of where the ball needs to be placed when you spin it. But if you're spinning and you don't bend your elbow, then the ball will tend to be behind you as you're turning, which makes it easier for the defender to take the ball. So what I tell kids is you have to bend your elbow. And then as you have the ball, you need to have your hand slightly on the side of the ball so you can kind of guide the ball with you as you spin. And as you spin, you want the ball to bounce in between your feet, because your stance is going to be wide. So by bouncing the ball in between your feet, it gives you a sense of safety, because the defender can't reach through your back inside your stomach to hit the ball. So by bending your elbow and staying low, you can achieve this with real simple action. Okay. All right. So now I'll go into the last part, which is footwork. Footwork is the most important thing in sports. It's definitely one of the most important things in basketball. When you're playing basketball, you must have good footwork. So by having good footwork, what I mean is you're stepping with the proper foot when you take the last bounce to spin. As you spin, you open your feet up, because if you just kind of turn your hips a little and your feet shift, then you can actually trip yourself. So you have to have a nice open wide stance for you to turn around and be able to have the ball bounce where you need it to bounce. After that happens, then you open up, right? You just open up and then you continue to go with the ball, capturing it in your left hand. So spin move, proper steps, the timing, all of that stuff takes place. So number one, you have to know which way to turn. Okay. Then you have to know which proper hand to use when you're turning. You need to keep your elbow bent to make sure the ball stays attached to you. You need to make sure that the ball bounces in between your feet as you spin to protect it. And then you need to have proper footwork. Okay, so if you're going to spin and you come to the point where you're about to make that spin move, if you're dribbling with your right, you should have your left foot on the ground almost at the same time as you bounce. And then if it's the left hand, it's going to obviously be the right. And if you're open, you need to have an open stance and swing your hips. These things are all important if you're going to try to learn the spin move and master it, because spin move is a move that you need to have. You need to have in your game because it's important. It can be really useful when dealing with certain defenders. If if you're taller or what have you, if you're slower and the defender is a little bit faster, you can use your body by using the spin move. So please learn the spin move if you haven't. If you have, perfect it. Use it in different ways. Be effective in it. Okay. I like to talk in honor of the month of October and Halloween. I was just sitting up here asking myself, man, what am I going to talk about? Right? Because I need to talk about basketball, but I want to make it kind of feel like we're just hanging out and we're talking. That's kind of how I like my podcast to feel. It's like, we just sitting, on the court after we played and we just talking shit. And I know one of the conversations that I've had with my friends back in the day was, obviously basketball. But one conversation has been about scary movies. Now, I love scary movies. I don't know why, because there's some movies that scare the shit out of me. And I don't like to be scared, but I do like to be scared. It's weird. Like, I like the feeling, but I don't like to be scared. Now, scary movies to me are movies with monsters. I'm not into the whole, serial killer stuff. Although when I was younger, Jason and Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers, I liked it. But I'm not really into real people killing people stuff. I'm not. That's not me, because it's more real life, right? But now I do. If anybody who knows me will tell you, I'm always worried about a zombie apocalypse. That's just me. That's just me. I'm fascinated with zombies, man. I don't know why, but I'm fascinated. So, because I can go like a whole 6 days talking about zombie shit. So I'm not gonna get into that. But let me give you. I'm not gonna give you, like, when I give you my all-time scary movies, it's not in any particular order, right? I'm not saying, oh, this is the all-time scariest scary movie to me. Now, this is movies when I was seeing when I was growing up. So it might not be scary to you when you look at it now. You might be like, man, that shit looks stupid. That you were scared of that. But you got to understand, back in the 80s, you're younger, the way they were shot with what they did available, the makeup and the effects and stuff, that shit looked real. Okay. So I'm only going to start with 5. I'm going to try to, go throughout the month of October, but I'm going to give you 5 right now. So one of them was the movie Alien. Now, something busting out your damn chest, that's kind of scary. You got to worry about what the fuck you eat, right? But in the movie Alien, the original movie, there's been like 400 since then, but in the original movie Alien, there was this thing called a face hunger. Well, they go to another planet, they get on the planet, and they find a ship, they get on, they see these things that look like eggs. This little thing comes out of the egg, wraps itself around the guy's mouth, and then, sticks something in there. So then the guy ends up having something bust out of his chest, which was an alien. Then the alien gets out and stuff, and it gets grown, and it starts killing people, eating them. Well, there's a scene. There's actually two scenes. Actually, there's three scenes in the movie. I'm gonna go through them real quick. The first scene that scared the hell out of me was when the guy's trying to find the damn cat. Now, I'm not gonna look. There are people that say this is a white people thing. White people love cats. I'm not going there. All I'm gonna say is he's looking for a damn cat, and the cat runs under something, and then when he's looking at him, he's trying to get him. The cat hisses. Now, when the cat hisses, that's when he realized, oh shit, something is behind me. He turns around, and you can see the alien, and it stands up, and it grabs him and uses the second mouth to kill him. Right? That freaked me out. Another scene was when they were trying to find him, and the guy is trying to tell a lady to move, and the alien comes in and he starts killing the guy. Right? The scene that really got me was when one of the stars, and that's how you know it's a good movie. Sometimes when the star gets killed, cause you be thinking, damn, he was supposed to be the star of the movie, and they killed him. All right. So in any case, he's in the movie. He's trying to find the alien. And he gets freaked out because the alien's not where he thinks it is, and he's freaking out because it's coming from him. Well, there's a scene where he's in this tunnel, and he's looking for it, and they're telling him it's right there, it's coming right there for you, and he's freaking out, and he turns his light one way to look. And then when he turns it the other way, you see the alien, and he jumps out at him. Now, that got me. And I remember seeing it in the movies, and I remember a whole bunch of people yelling and screaming at that scene. Now, it was a scary movie, right? Okay, here's my next one. The next movie is called Fright Night. Now, Fright Night scared me, but I loved it. And I'm not talking about the new Fright Night with, what's that guy's name? Colin. I can't think of it. It'll come back to me, trust me. But I'm talking about the original, like, 84, 85 Fright Night. Yo, that was a smooth vampire, but he was powerful and he was scary. The whole movie was scary to me, right? But the scene that scared the shit out of me was when the guy was, his girlfriend he had the vampire bit him, and he was trying to get her, he was trying to help save her, but she was attacking him. So she was almost kind of a vampire, and they needed to kill the main vampire before the sun came up. Well, he's trying to help her out, and he puts the cross in her face, and she turns her head, and she starts talking to him, saying, you know, why are you doing this to me? So now she's appealing to his soft side, because he's like, oh, damn, baby, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. So then as he's walking up to her to tell her he's sorry, she moves her arm that was covering her face, and her mouth is huge, like really big. Like, and she turns around and it's fangs and everything. Now that shit scared me because I had that visualization in my head the whole time. Now, if you remember my other podcast, sometimes I'm going to use what I call SAT words. These are big words that you don't use all the time, right? So, just food for thought. You might hear me use big words, not because I like to use big words, but just because I like to make fun of the fact that people like to use big words as opposed to talking with the regular tone and regular vocabulary. But in any case, that movie scared me. Now, the next one is Dawn of the Dead. Of course, there's going to be something about zombies. Now, these were fast zombies, and that's what was scary about them. Number one, you get bit, you die, you come right back. There ain't no, grace period where you dead for like 4 or 5 hours. You get bit and then your ass is coming back. But they ran fast. So like in my head, I'm thinking, damn, like, how do you get away from that? You just got to be able to run. And if I'm with somebody, they can't run faster than me, that's their ass. That's just kind of how it goes, right? So Dawn of the Dead was a great movie. Not the first one, not the original one where they were really slow. The newer one with Ving Rhames. That one was great. That's one of my favorite movies. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to get into Creepshow. Now, Creepshow to this day, the original Creepshow, I can't even watch that whole movie. Look, I'm not going to say shit. It scared the fuck out of me. The one that scared me the most in Creepshow was cause if you've ever seen it, it's 4 or 5 tales, 4 or 5 different, stories. The one that scared me was the one about the crate. Now, it was apparently a Tasmanian devil that happened to be stored in a college, and the janitor found it and they moved it out, and they were like, what is this? So they were going to try to open it up. Well, when they opened it up and they realized what it was a Tasmanian devil. And when he grabbed the janitor and pulled him in the box, he was eating them and devouring them as he pulled them in the box. So blood is gushing everywhere. Now you can't see him eating them. You can hear the screaming and, the monster noises. And that just scared me to the point that I can never, whenever that movie comes on, I watch almost all of the other parts. But when that scene comes on, that part, that story, I turn it off. It's crazy. I'm 50 years old and I still can't watch that scene. Okay. Last one is The Howling. Okay. The Howling is a movie that scared me as well because it was about werewolves. But it was the first time that I had ever seen a werewolf transformation, right? Where the thing he transformed from a man to a wolf. And these weren't like wolves that you see walking around on 4 legs. These were like 7-8 foot tall werewolves, right? They were walking on 2 feet. These things were vicious, right? So like watching them transform and he grabbed the lady. This was the scheme. She's in there trying to find out evidence, right? She's on the phone with somebody. She has a paper in her hand. There's a bloody finger with fingernail that pushes the tape button, the record button on the tape recorder. She's talking on the phone. She has a phone in her left hand. She has a file in her left hand. All of a sudden, you see this hand reaching for the file and, kind of takes it out of her hand slowly. She looks up and it's a fucking werewolf. And then he hits her and everything. And then, of course, he ends up killing her. But it was the way he did it. That scene scared the shit out of me. Just the transformation and how they did it. Man, I didn't want to sleep. I didn't want to sleep with the light off for about a month after that movie. I didn't want to go in nobody's house by myself. I was just scared, right? So these were 5 movies, and I have more. I have more because I love watching scary movies. But these are 5 movies that are some part of my all-time scary movies. Now, they were back in the 80s. Now, Dawn of the Dead was back in like 2002 or 3 or something like that. So that one was probably the newest of all of them. But these were movies that, I was scared of. I just couldn't watch them. Okay. Last thing I'm going to bring up is I'm looking at doing all-time top 5, all-time top 10, all-time greatest players. The thing that bothers me when I'm listening to people talk about it is they only talk about, the players, or they'll list their 5, but nobody really seems to have a criteria for it. So what I need to do is figure out the criteria. What do I mean by criteria? So how do you become the top 10 player, right? How are you a top 10 player? What do you have to have in your resume to be it? Do you have to have a certain amount of championships? Do you have to be certain, should you have made, should you be dominant? So let me give you an example. Some people will say Charles Barkley isn't, you can't consider him a top player, even though he's in the Hall of Fame, because he's never won a championship. So is that a criteria? So I want to try to help build a criteria list with you, my audience. So, we're going to have to figure this out by maybe having y'all to send me some, criteria. What is it that you feel will makes a person be considered one of the great players? Do you have to have 2 championships? Can you have one? The criteria is now you have to have won it at least twice. Because Michael Jordan once said anybody can look up and win one championship, right? So, what's the criteria? So we need to put that shit together so we can end up having the opportunity. That's going to be all for this time. I want to make sure that, we continue this process and build from it. So I like to thank everybody who encouraged me to come back to this podcast. I like to thank the organization that has allowed me to do my podcast with them. I really appreciate it. As usual, I'm always going to end with the thing that I always say, which is, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. That's something that I tell my kids when they're trying to learn something, when it's something hard that they're trying to do. It's like, look, if it was easy, everybody would be doing this move. If it was easy, you wouldn't have to train. You could just go out and do it. But it's not easy. It's hard. Life is hard. So if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. I'm out.